Everyone's hoarding gold bars and silver coins thinking they're set for the collapse. But let me tell you something that'll make your blood run cold. When the supply chains snap and the grocery stores are picked clean in 48 hours, you won't be able to eat your precious metals, and the guy with a pocket full of Krigarans is going to be just as desperate as the fool who kept all his money in a checking account. The real currency after the dollar dies isn't going to be shiny or valuable by today's standards. It's going to be the stuff you're throwing away right now. The things currently rotting in your trash can or rusting in your garage. And if you don't understand this shift in value, you're going to be on the losing end of every trade you make. When civilization reboots, I'm going to show you the 5 items that will be worth more than gold when everything falls apart. And I'm talking about things you can find in a dumpster today that will literally save your life tomorrow. First up, water filtration materials, specifically activated charcoal and sand. And before you roll your eyes, let me explain why a bag of aquarium charcoal is going to trade for more than a gold necklace when the taps run dry. Contaminated water kills faster than starvation. We're talking about bacterial infections, parasites, and chemical poisoning that will drop you in 72 hours. And while everyone else is fighting over the last case of bottled water at the abandoned Walmart, you'll have the ability to create clean water from any source. Activated charcoal works through a process called adsorption, not absorption, where contaminants stick to the massive surface area of the carbon molecules. We're talking about removing chlorine, volatile organic compounds, and even some heavy metals. And when you layer it with sand and gravel, you're creating a mechanical filtration system that removes sediment and larger particles through simple physics. The water passes through the sand where particles get trapped in the tiny spaces between grains, then hits the charcoal layer where chemical contaminants bind to the carbon. And what comes out the other end is drinkable. You can pull activated charcoal from old water filters, aquarium supplies, or even make it yourself by burning hardwood and treating it with salt water. And the best part is this knowledge makes you valuable. People will trade anything for clean water, including their gold jewelry, because you can't drink precious metals. Next, we're talking about alcohol. And I don't mean the liquor store bourbon you're stockpiling for barter. I mean isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, the stuff currently sitting under your bathroom sink in a half-empty bottle. This is liquid gold in a grid-down scenario for 3 critical reasons: medical disinfection, fire starting, and trade value. And the medical application alone makes it worth its weight in actual gold. When antibiotics run out and hospitals are overrun or abandoned, every cut becomes a potential death sentence. We're talking about infections that spread from a simple scratch to full-blown sepsis in a matter of days, and alcohol is your first line of defense through a process called protein denaturation, where the alcohol molecules disrupt the cell membranes of bacteria and viruses, essentially ripping them apart at the molecular level. It works on contact, requires no skill to apply, and can mean the difference between a treatable wound and an amputation beyond medical use. Alcohol is an incredible fire starter because of its low flash point and high evaporation rate. The rapid evaporation creates flammable vapor that ignites easily even in damp conditions. And when you're trying to start a fire in a rainstorm with wet wood, this becomes a survival necessity. You can scavenge isopropyl from abandoned pharmacies, medical facilities, even old first aid kits in cars. And the 70% concentration is actually better than the 90% for disinfection because the water content slows evaporation, giving it more contact time with pathogens. Number 3 is aluminum foil. And I can hear you laughing, but this thin metal sheet is one of the most versatile survival tools you'll ever find, and it's in every abandoned kitchen right now. Aluminum is valuable in a collapse scenario because of its thermal properties, specifically its high thermal conductivity and reflectivity. And understanding these properties turns a roll of foil into a cooking surface, a water purifier, a signal device, and an insulation layer. The reflective surface bounces back 97% of radiant heat, which means you can line a shelter wall with foil and redirect your body heat back toward you, instead of losing it to the environment. We're talking about the difference between hypothermia and survival when temperatures drop. You can also use this reflectivity to create a solar oven by forming a parabolic reflector that concentrates sunlight on a single point. The focused thermal radiation can reach temperatures high enough to boil water or cook food without any fuel source, pure physics doing the work. The high thermal conductivity means aluminum transfers heat rapidly and evenly. So you can fashion a cooking surface that won't create hot spots and burn your food. Or you can wrap food directly in foil and place it in coals for even cooking through heat. Conduction. Beyond that, a sheet of foil can be used to create a makeshift funnel for water collection, fashioned into cordage by twisting it, or even used as a signaling device where the reflective surface catches sunlight and can be seen for miles, and all of this from something people throw away every single day. Fourth on the list is plastic sheeting, specifically the thick contractor-grade polyethylene that's currently lining dumpsters and covering construction materials. And this stuff becomes shelter currency when housing is destroyed or inaccessible. A simple plastic sheet solves the number one survival priority, which is protection from the elements. Exposure kills faster than thirst in most climates, and a waterproof barrier between you and wine-driven rain is the difference between making it through the night and dying from hypothermia. The physics here is straightforward. Plastic is impermeable to water and wind, creating a barrier that prevents convective heat loss where moving air strips warmth from your body. And it also blocks radiant cooling where your body heat escapes as infrared radiation into the cold night sky. You can use plastic sheeting to create a debris hut that's actually waterproof. Fashion it into a rainwater collection system by forming a funnel that drains into containers. Or even create a solar still for water purification where the sheet traps evaporated moisture and channels it into a collection point. The condensation process works because water vapor rises from contaminated sources, hits the cooler plastic surface, condenses back into liquid droplets through heat transfer, and runs down to your clean container, giving you distilled water from any source including urine or seawater. You can find contractor plastic at any abandoned construction site, hardware store, or even in people's garages. And a single 10-byte Winnie sheet weighs almost nothing but provides more practical survival value than a bar of gold. The fifth item is fire-starting materials, but not what you think. I'm talking about steel wool and 9-volt batteries, the combination that creates fire through electrical resistance heating and oxidation. Everyone's stockpiling lighters and matches, and those run out, but steel wool is everywhere, in abandoned workshops, under sinks and maintenance closets. And combined with a battery, it becomes an unlimited fire source as long as you have the components. The science is elegant. When you touch steel wool to the terminals of a 9-volt battery, you complete a circuit and electricity flows through the thin steel fibers. The resistance in those narrow strands converts electrical energy into heat through joule heating, where electrons colliding with metal atoms transfer kinetic energy. And within seconds, the steel reaches temperatures high enough to ignite. But here's where it gets better. Steel wool is mostly iron, and at high temperatures iron undergoes rapid oxidation, essentially rusting at extreme speed. And this exothermic reaction releases even more heat, creating the self-sustaining ember that burns hot enough to ignite tinder. You can find 9-volt batteries and smoke detectors in every abandoned building, and steel wool is in maintenance supplies everywhere. And the combination weighs ounces, but gives you fire in any weather condition. The battery terminals create the initial heat, the steel wool provides the fuel through oxidation, and you're turning electrical potential energy into thermal energy into flame, all from trash. Now here's what ties all of this together. The real wealth after collapse isn't in things that were valuable before. It's in knowledge and resourcefulness. It's in understanding the physics and chemistry that makes trash into tools. Gold has no intrinsic survival value. It doesn't purify water. It doesn't start fires. It doesn't provide shelter, and in a world where supply chains are dead, gold is just a soft metal that's too heavy to carry and too impractical to use. The items I've shown you represent the actual foundations of survival: water, medicine, heat management, shelter, and fire. And every single one can be scavenged from what society throws away. The person who understands thermal conductivity and reflectivity can turn aluminum foil into a life-saving tool. The person who understands absorption can create clean water from charcoal, and the person who understands electrical resistance can make fire from a battery and steel wool. And that knowledge is worth more than any precious metal because it can't be taken from you. And it multiplies in value as you share it. When the reset comes, and it will come, value will be measured in problems solved and lives saved, not in weight and purity of metals locked in a safe. Start looking at trash differently. Start collecting these items now while they're free. And start practicing the skills that turn garbage into survival gear. Because the wealthiest person in the post-collapse world won't be the one with the most gold. It'll be the one who can create value from nothing. Subscribe to the Grid Manual right now if you want more of this brutal truth that nobody else is willing to say. Hit that notification bell and understand that your survival depends on rewiring your brain to see value where everyone else sees waste. Because when the lights go out permanently, the only currency that matters is the ability to stay alive one more day.